Many wetlands have been covered over by railways and port infrastructure in this place. But the water is still there. And for many people tonight, you would have experienced beautiful rains coming down. And they soak into the earth and they also flow the way they always have towards Nurm, Port Phillip Bay. A lot of our songs respond to the place that we are living in, and we acknowledge our positionality as descendants of settlers who've benefited from theft of land from First Nations people, and we have benefited from the impositions on waterways and on country to build this city. So our songs respond to those histories, and that is a lot of the research we've been doing over the last few years, is looking at maps, looking at accounts of where waterways were, how they flowed. Many people listening tonight would know many waterways have been put underground into drains, but they still flow and they still find their way to the bay. Eels still migrate through those waterways, as they always have for thousands and thousands of years. And we acknowledge First Nations people's custodianship and care for this country for time immemorial. We're extremely humbled to be performing tonight, and we're grateful to be here. We're going to play a few songs that relate to some of these themes, and also some songs that are quite personal to us, that respond to things that have happened in our lives. We'll explain a little bit more about that as we go through the performance. So thank you for being here. Our first song is about the beautiful Moonee Ponds Creek, which flows north-south down towards the bay, and it used to end in a series of beautiful ephemeral tidal pools before it met the Birrung Delta, or out across the Birrung Delta. And those tidal pools were surrounded by samphire and sedge and reeds. There were many water birds. It was a really important estuarine environment. And the end of Moonee Ponds Creek was channelized in the 1870s in order to bring coal on barges up from the bay up to what was the Spencer Street rail yards. And you might find sometimes in the bay, every so often, if you're walking along the edge of the bay, particularly, it was once when we were at Point Cook, we found with a friend of ours who's a conservationist, a piece of coal that had washed up on the shore of the beach there, probably from those times of barges carrying coal up to rail yards, and from the time of coal being used in steamers and ships. But the relationship between coal and water is there in Melbourne, in the carving of that waterway. Now there's a lot of movement towards removing cement and removing paving from waterways that have been channelized, and I know there's some discussion about Moonee Ponds Creek in that regard, and I feel really excited about that prospect. And maybe there's a chance we can return the chain of ponds to Moonee chain of ponds. Moonee chain of ponds, with your reeds and your black swans. Moonee chain of ponds, with your reeds and your black swans. Moonee chain of ponds, with your reeds and your black swans. Moonee chain of ponds, with your reeds and your black swans. This is the railway. I've come to carve your circle straight. I've come to bring your edges parallel. And there a ribbon of blue beneath to carry the coal that feeds me. Moonee, Moonee, chain of ponds with your reeds and your black swans. Moonee, Moonee, chain of ponds with your reeds and your black swans. Moonee, Moonee, chain of ponds with your reeds and your black swans. This is the railway.